In a world where fear often silences the brave, what would you do to protect your loved ones? What if standing up against injustice meant risking everything you hold dear? At 𝗵𝗧𝗔𝗬𝗪𝗓 Regional Medical Center, dedicated nurse Sophia embodies compassion in a community gripped by the shadow of the Iron Wolves gang. With her older brother Miguel, a former military serviceman, they confront a growing menace that threatens their home and the lives of those they care about. As they rally their neighbors and forge unexpected alliances, including the steadfast Dr. Emily Carson, they must navigate a treacherous landscape of violence and intimidation. Will they succeed in reclaiming their neighborhood, or will the Iron Wolves tighten their grip? Let us watch how ordinary heroes can rise against extraordinary challenges. Sophia is a dedicated nurse at 𝗵𝗧𝗔𝗬𝗪𝗓 Regional Medical Center. With her warm smile and compassionate heart, she cares for her patients as if they were family. Sophia is fiercely protective of her loved ones and deeply committed to her community. However, the growing influence of the Iron Wolves gang has left her feeling vulnerable. Despite the fear that surrounds her, Sophia remains determined to stand up against injustice and fight for a safer future. Miguel, Sophia's older brother, is a former military serviceman. He carries an air of quiet strength and confidence, shaped by his experiences in the field. Miguel is protective of Sophia and feels a strong sense of responsibility to keep her safe. He is resourceful and strategic, using his military training to navigate challenges. When the Iron Wolves threaten their community, Miguel becomes a leader, rallying others to take action against the gang. Raven, the leader of the Iron Wolves, is a formidable presence in 𝗵𝗧𝗔𝗬𝗪𝗓. Charismatic yet ruthless, he commands respect and fear among his gang members. Raven thrives on intimidation and seeks to expand his territory through violence and chaos. His actions create a climate of fear that affects everyone in the community. Despite his power, Raven's arrogance may blind him to the growing resistance led by Miguel and Sophia. Dr. Emily Carson is a respected physician at the hospital where Sophia works. She is intelligent, compassionate, and deeply concerned about the impact of gang violence on her patients. Emily becomes an ally to Sophia and Miguel, sharing their commitment to fighting back against the Iron Wolves. Her medical expertise and strong moral compass make her an invaluable partner in their quest for justice. The community members are everyday heroes who come together in solidarity against fear. They represent various backgrounds, families, workers, and friends who share a common goal: to reclaim their neighborhood from the grip of violence. Their stories intertwine with those of Sophia and Miguel as they unite to support one another in times of crisis. Sophia rushed through the busy halls of 𝗵𝗧𝗔𝗬𝗪𝗓 Regional Medical Center, her heart racing as she moved from one patient to another. She was a dedicated nurse, always ready to help those in need, but today felt different. Outside, the sounds of chaos echoed through the streets. The Iron Wolves, a notorious gang in the area, were causing trouble again. Their presence loomed over the community like a dark cloud, and everyone felt it. As Sophia treated a young boy with a broken arm, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The Iron Wolves had been getting bolder, their actions becoming more violent and reckless. Just last week, they had taken over a local park, scaring families away and leaving destruction in their wake. The community was scared, and so was Sophia. She wanted to protect her patients and her neighborhood, but she felt powerless against such a powerful force. After her shift ended, Sophia stepped outside into the cool evening air. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the parking lot. She felt a sense of relief wash over her as she approached her car, ready to head home after a long day. But as she drew closer, her heart sank. Her car was vandalized, spray paint covered the windows, and the tires were slashed. Anger bubbled inside her. This was not just a car, it was a symbol of her hard work and dedication. Sophia's mind raced with thoughts of why this happened. Did they know she worked at the hospital? Did they want to send a message? The Iron Wolves were known for their intimidation tactics, but this felt personal. She glanced around the parking lot, hoping to see someone who could help or at least understand what had happened. But it was empty and quiet, amplifying her sense of isolation. As she stood there, a mix of fear and determination filled her heart. She thought of her family, her younger brother who looked up to her, and her parents who had sacrificed so much for her education. They had always taught her to stand up for what is right, even when it's hard. But how could she fight against something so big? The gang was powerful and ruthless. They didn't care about the consequences of their actions. Sophia took a deep breath and pulled out her phone. She knew she had to report this incident to the police, but part of her hesitated. What if they couldn't help? What if they were too afraid of the Iron Wolves themselves? Still, she couldn't let fear control her life or the lives of those she loved. As she dialed the number for the police station, Sophia felt a surge of resolve. She would not let this gang win. She would fight back in any way she could, by protecting her community and standing up for herself and others who were suffering under their reign of terror. The call connected, and she explained what had happened with urgency in her voice. The operator assured her that someone would be sent to investigate. Sophia hung up feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She knew that reporting this was just the first step. There would be more challenges ahead. With determination in her heart, Sophia decided that she wouldn't stop there. She began to think about how she could rally others in the community to stand against the Iron Wolves. They needed to come together to reclaim their streets and support one another. As she walked away from her damaged car, Sophia felt an unexpected spark of hope ignite within her. Maybe together they could make a difference against the chaos that threatened their lives every day. She envisioned meetings with neighbors discussing ways to protect each other and share information about gang activities. The next day at work, Sophia shared her experience with some colleagues during lunch break. They listened intently as she recounted what had happened to her car and how it made her feel vulnerable yet determined to act. To her surprise, many expressed their own fears about living under the shadow of the Iron Wolves. One nurse suggested organizing a community watch program where residents could look out for each other and report suspicious activities together. Another proposed starting a neighborhood group that would meet regularly to discuss safety concerns and support one another emotionally. Sophia felt encouraged by their enthusiasm. It seemed like they were all ready to take action against the threat looming over them. Together they brainstormed ideas on how to spread awareness about their initiative while ensuring everyone felt safe participating. That evening, as Sophia left work again, she noticed something different in the air. A sense of unity among those who lived nearby began to form like invisible threads connecting them all together against a common enemy. Days turned into weeks as Sophia continued working tirelessly at the hospital while also rallying support from neighbors and friends alike. They held meetings where people shared stories about their encounters with gang members, some frightening tales filled with anger but also resilience. Slowly but surely, more people joined their cause. Their community watch program gained traction as residents took turns patrolling streets during evenings when danger seemed most likely to strike again. Sophia found strength in numbers. Together they created flyers warning others about potential threats while encouraging everyone not only to stay vigilant but also reach out if they ever felt unsafe or needed help. With each passing day came new challenges brought on by escalating tensions, with gangs trying harder than ever before to assert dominance over 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏's neighborhoods. But now there was hope shining through darkness like stars twinkling brightly overhead on clear nights. Sophia understood that change wouldn't happen overnight. It would take time before real progress could be seen, but seeing families come together fueled by love for one another made every moment worthwhile. She realized that while fear might never fully disappear from their lives completely, courage could shine brighter than any shadow cast by those who wished harm upon them all. Sophia was busy at the hospital, her mind racing with thoughts of the Community Watch program. As she moved through the halls, she felt a sense of purpose. But that feeling was soon interrupted when she crossed paths with Dr. Emily Carson, a respected doctor at 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 Regional Medical Center. Emily's face was tense, and Sophia could sense something was wrong. Sophia approached Emily, hoping to share her excitement about their community efforts. However, Emily seemed distracted and anxious. She glanced around as if making sure no one was listening. The tension in the air thickened, and Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. Something serious was happening. Emily finally spoke, her voice low and urgent. She revealed that the Iron Wolves were not just causing trouble in the streets, they were also trying to infiltrate the hospital. They had been pressuring some staff members to alter medical records for their own gain. This revelation sent shockwaves through Sophia. The idea that the gang could reach into the very heart of their community's safety was terrifying. Sophia listened intently as Emily explained how some doctors and nurses had been approached by gang members, threatened with violence if they didn't comply. It was a nightmare scenario, one that made Sophia's stomach turn. The thought of patients being put at risk because of gang influence was unacceptable. The stakes were rising, and Sophia felt a growing sense of urgency. She knew they had to act quickly before things got worse. Emily's fear was palpable. She had seen firsthand how far the gang would go to get what they wanted. It wasn't just about intimidation anymore, it was about corruption creeping into their workplace. Sophia realized that their Community Watch program needed to expand beyond the streets. They had to protect each other inside the hospital as well. She suggested organizing a meeting with other staff members to discuss what was happening and how they could stand together against this threat. Emily nodded, but her expression remained troubled. She warned Sophia that not everyone would be willing to speak out against the gang. Fear had a way of silencing people, especially when their jobs were on the line. Sophia understood this all too well. She had seen how fear could paralyze even the bravest souls. Despite this, Sophia felt determined to push forward. They couldn't let fear win. They needed to create an environment where everyone felt safe enough to share their experiences without worrying about retaliation from the gang. As they walked through the hospital together, Sophia began to notice small signs of tension among her co-workers. Whispers filled the break room, and eyes darted away when she entered a room. It was clear that fear was spreading like wildfire, and it fueled her resolve even more. That evening, Sophia gathered her courage and sent out an email to all hospital staff inviting them to an emergency meeting after work hours. She hoped that by bringing everyone together, they could find strength in numbers and come up with a plan to combat the gang's influence. The response was mixed. Some expressed gratitude for addressing the issue while others hesitated, fearing repercussions if they spoke out. But Sophia remained hopeful that enough people would show up to make a difference. On the day of the meeting, anticipation hung in the air as staff members trickled into the conference room. Sophia watched as familiar faces filled the seats: nurses, doctors, and support staff who all shared a common concern for their safety and the safety of their patients. As she stood before them, Sophia felt a surge of determination wash over her. She began by sharing her own experience with the gang and how it had affected her life outside of work. She spoke passionately about their Community Watch program and how important it was for everyone to stand together against intimidation and corruption. Slowly but surely, others began to share their stories too, stories of threats received from gang members or witnessing suspicious activities around the hospital grounds. Each tale added weight to their collective fear but also ignited a spark of courage within them all. Sophia encouraged everyone to brainstorm ideas on how they could protect themselves and each other while continuing to provide care for their patients without interference from outside forces. Ideas flowed freely as people began suggesting ways to document any suspicious behavior or threats made against them at work. They discussed creating anonymous reporting systems so that those who feared retaliation could still speak up without revealing their identities. As discussions continued late into the evening, something remarkable began to happen. The fear that once dominated their conversation started transforming into determination and solidarity among colleagues who had once felt isolated in their struggles against organized crime. By the end of the meeting, there was a palpable sense of hope in the room, a feeling that together they could reclaim control over their workplace environment while ensuring patient safety remained paramount despite external pressures threatening them all. Sophia left feeling empowered, knowing that change was possible when people came together united by purpose rather than divided by fear. But deep down inside her heart lingered an unsettling thought: would it be enough? Would standing up against such powerful forces really protect them? Days passed after that meeting, filled with renewed energy as staff members began implementing new protocols for reporting incidents while also keeping an eye out for one another during shifts at work. However, lurking just beneath this newfound hope lay an undercurrent of tension. Whispers circulated among those who remained skeptical about whether any real change could occur within 𝗲𝗏𝗔𝗬𝗪's walls given how deeply entrenched gangs had become in local society. Miguel was at home when his phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. His heart sank as he read her words about the vandalism to her car. He could feel the weight of her fear and frustration through the screen. Without hesitation, he grabbed his keys and rushed out the door. Sophia needed him, and he would not let her face this alone. As Miguel drove through the streets of 𝗲𝗏𝗔𝗬𝗪, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled in his stomach. The iron walls had been causing chaos for too long, but now it felt personal. He arrived at the hospital parking lot and quickly spotted Sophia's car. The sight was shocking. It was a mess, covered in graffiti and with slashed tires. Miguel's anger flared as he realized this was more than just random vandalism. This was a message of a threat. He inspected the damage closely, noting the specific symbols painted on the car. They were marks associated with the Iron Wolves, signs of their territory and power. It dawned on him that this incident was part of a larger strategy to intimidate not just Sophia but everyone connected to her. The gang wanted to instill fear in the community, and they were succeeding. Miguel felt a surge of determination. He knew he couldn't let this go unanswered. He decided to gather evidence, to document everything he could about this attack and any other incidents related to the gang. He pulled out his phone and began taking pictures of the vandalism, capturing every detail that might be useful later. As he worked, Miguel thought about how deeply embedded the Iron Wolves were in their lives. They had infiltrated not only the streets, but also places meant to be safe, like hospitals and schools. This realization fueled his resolve even more. He had to dig deeper into what was happening. After documenting the damage, Miguel returned home, his mind racing with plans. He began researching online, looking for any news articles or reports about the Iron Wolves' activities in 𝗲𝗏𝗡. The more he read, the clearer it became that they were not just a local gang, they were part of something larger, a network that spread fear throughout multiple neighborhoods. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Sophia continued her duties as if nothing had happened. She focused on caring for her patients but kept a mental note of every odd occurrence related to the gang. Each whisper she overheard or suspicious person she saw added to her growing list of incidents. Sophia felt a mix of anger and determination as she worked alongside her colleagues who were also trying to navigate this dangerous new reality. She documented everything meticulously, knowing that one day it might help them build a case against the Iron Wolves. As days turned into weeks, Miguel became more involved in gathering information about the gang's activities. He spoke with neighbors who had experienced similar threats and listened carefully to their stories. Each account painted a clearer picture of how far-reaching the gang's influence was. Miguel also started reaching out to local community leaders, hoping to unite their efforts against the Iron Wolves. He knew that if they could come together as a community, they might stand a chance against such a powerful adversary. Back at the hospital, Sophia's documentation became crucial as she shared her findings with her co-workers during meetings. They began compiling evidence together, dates, times, descriptions of incidents, building a timeline that showcased how pervasive the gang's intimidation tactics had become. One evening after work, Miguel met Sophia at a local cafe to discuss their findings. They exchanged information about what they had learned over the past few weeks and how they could combine their efforts for greater impact. Sophia shared stories from patients who had been affected by gang violence or intimidation, while Miguel presented his research on how organized crime operated in their area. Together they realized that knowledge was power. Understanding how the Iron Wolves worked could help them strategize effectively against them. As they talked late into the night, an idea began to form, a plan to confront the gang directly while also rallying support from others in their community who were tired of living in fear. Miguel felt invigorated by their discussions. He knew they were onto something important. They decided that it was time to take action, not just for themselves, but for everyone suffering under the Iron Wolves' reign of terror. With renewed determination fueling their spirits, Miguel and Sophia set out to gather more evidence and build alliances within their community. They believed that together they could create enough momentum to challenge the gang's influence head-on. Days passed as they worked tirelessly, Miguel collecting information while Sophia continued documenting incidents at work, each moment bringing them closer to understanding how best to confront this threat looming over 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗥. But even as hope blossomed within them both, a nagging worry lingered in Miguel's mind. Would their efforts be enough? Would confronting such powerful forces lead them down a dangerous path? Only time would tell if courage could truly overcome fear. Miguel felt a mix of excitement and fear as he prepared for the confrontation with Raven, the leader of the Iron Wolves. After weeks of gathering evidence and building alliances, he knew it was time to take a stand. He had devised a plan to confront Raven at a local diner where the gang often gathered. This was their territory, but Miguel was determined to show them that fear would no longer control their lives. The night approached, and Miguel's heart raced as he arrived at the diner. He had chosen this place because it was familiar to him, a spot where he had shared meals with friends. Now, it felt like a battleground. He took a deep breath, recalling his military training. He had learned how to stay calm under pressure, how to think strategically in tense situations. This knowledge would serve him well tonight. Inside the diner, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The Iron Wolves were scattered around, laughing and joking, unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. Miguel spotted Raven sitting at a booth in the corner, his presence commanding and intimidating. He was surrounded by a few loyal gang members who looked ready for trouble. Miguel approached the booth with purpose, his heart pounding in his chest. As he neared, he could feel the eyes of the gang members on him, assessing him like prey. But Miguel stood tall. He had come too far to back down now. Raven looked up from his meal, surprise flashing across his face before it turned into a smirk. He leaned back in his seat, clearly amused by Miguel's boldness. The other gang members exchanged glances, sensing the tension rising in the air. Miguel wasted no time. He launched into his speech about how their reign of terror would no longer be tolerated. He spoke with confidence, recalling everything he had learned during his training, how to assert dominance without resorting to violence. It was a psychological game, and Miguel was ready to play. Raven listened intently, his expression shifting from amusement to annoyance. He tried to dismiss Miguel's words with arrogance, but Miguel pressed on, challenging him directly about the fear they instilled in the community. The more Miguel spoke, the more he could see Raven's facade cracking. As they exchanged words, Miguel felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. He could sense that this confrontation was not just about him, it represented everyone who had suffered under the Iron Wolves' influence. Each word he spoke was for Sophia, for their community, for all those who felt powerless. Raven finally stood up from the booth, towering over Miguel as he leaned in closer. The tension reached its peak. It felt like an electric current running between them. Miguel held his ground, meeting Raven's gaze with unwavering resolve. The gang members shifted nervously behind Raven, sensing that their leader was losing control of the situation. Miguel saw this as an opportunity. He needed to show that unity and courage could stand against intimidation. He called out to those in the diner, people who had come to eat but were now witnesses to this confrontation. He reminded them that they were not alone and that together they could fight back against fear and violence. Sophia stood at the entrance of the diner, her heart racing as she watched Miguel confront Raven. She felt pride swell within her as she saw him embodying everything they had worked for, courage and leadership shining through in this moment of crisis. Raven's bravado began to wane as more people turned their attention toward Miguel and away from him. The realization that he was losing control sparked anger within Raven. he lashed out verbally but found himself struggling against Miguel's calm demeanor and steady voice. The standoff continued as Miguel maintained his composure while Raven grew increasingly agitated. It became clear that this wasn't just about power, it was about respect, and for the first time in a long while, Raven seemed unsure of himself. As tension soared, 𝗂𝗏𝗏 decided she couldn't just stand by any longer. She stepped forward into view and called out to Miguel with encouragement. Her presence energized him further. Together they represented hope against oppression. Raven noticed 𝗂𝗏𝗏's bravery and turned his ire toward her, trying to intimidate her with threats and insults. But 𝗂𝗏𝗏 stood firm beside Miguel, refusing to back down even when faced with danger. In that moment of unity between them, Miguel's strength and 𝗂𝗏𝗏's resilience, the tide began to turn against Raven and his gang members. They realized that their intimidation tactics were failing against this newfound courage radiating from both Miguel and 𝗂𝗏𝗏. As more people in the diner began murmuring support for Miguel and 𝗂𝗏𝗏's stance against violence, Raven's confidence crumbled completely. The realization that they were not alone, that others were willing to stand up, made all the difference. With one final push from Miguel reminding everyone present of their shared strength and determination to reclaim their community from fear, Raven finally backed down. His bravado dissipated as he realized that tonight would not end in victory for him or his gang. Defeated, but still dangerous, Raven retreated with his gang members trailing behind him like shadows, leaving behind a once strong presence now weakened by unity among those who refused to be silenced any longer. As they left the diner together, Miguel feeling triumphant alongside 𝗂𝗏𝗏, they knew they had taken an important step toward dismantling the Iron Wolves' hold on 𝗲𝗏𝗏. They understood that this battle was far from over, but believed wholeheartedly that courage could indeed overcome fear. As Miguel and 𝗂𝗏𝗏 stepped out of the diner, feeling the weight of their small victory, a strange sound broke the tension in the air. One of Raven's gang members, clearly trying to maintain an intimidating stance, had leaned too far over the table while gesturing wildly. In his attempt to look tough, he knocked over a large soda cup that had been precariously perched at the edge. The soda splashed everywhere, soaking his clothes and creating a sticky mess on the floor. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as everyone turned to look at the scene unfolding. The gang member's face turned bright red, not from anger but embarrassment. He stood there, drenched in soda, his tough guy act completely ruined. A ripple of laughter erupted from the patrons in the diner. It was unexpected and infectious. The laughter cut through the remaining tension like a knife, and even Miguel couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. The gang member looked around, bewildered by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. His tough demeanor faltered as he glanced at his friends for support, but they were too busy laughing to help him. 𝗂𝗏𝗏 seized this moment to lighten the mood further. She turned to Miguel with a playful grin and said that perhaps they should start a new trend, soda showers for intimidation. The laughter grew louder, and even some of Raven's gang members struggled to keep straight faces as they tried to regain their composure. Raven himself was not amused. He shot an angry glare at his gang member, who was now trying to wipe off soda with a napkin while still looking menacing. But it was too late. The laughter had broken the spell of fear that had hung over them all evening. As Raven's gang began to retreat, their bravado shattered by both laughter and humiliation, Miguel felt a lightness in his heart. It was a reminder that even in serious moments, humor could bridge gaps and bring people together. The diners who had been silent witnesses just moments before were now chatting excitedly about what had just happened. Miguel and Sophia exchanged glances filled with relief and amusement. They knew that while they faced many challenges ahead, this moment showed them that fear could be challenged not only by courage but also by laughter. It was a small victory, but one that would resonate throughout 𝗲𝗏𝗡. As they walked away from the diner, Miguel felt invigorated by what had transpired. He realized that they had not only stood up against Raven, but had also inspired others in their community to do the same. The laughter shared among strangers created bonds that would help strengthen their resolve against the Iron Wolves. In the days that followed, news of the confrontation spread quickly through 𝗲𝗏𝗡. People began sharing stories about how Miguel and Sophia had faced down danger with courage and humor, becoming symbols of hope for those who felt trapped by fear. Miguel continued gathering evidence against the Iron Wolves, while Sophia documented more incidents at work. They both knew that their fight was far from over, however, they felt empowered knowing they were not alone in this battle anymore. The diner incident became a rallying point for their community. More people began showing up at meetings to discuss safety strategies and ways to support one another against intimidation tactics used by gangs. The laughter from that night served as a reminder that together they could face anything, even if it meant confronting scary situations with a little bit of humor. As Miguel and Sophia worked side by side, they realized how important it was to keep their spirits high amidst adversity. They encouraged each other to find moments of joy even when things felt heavy, a lesson learned from an unexpected soda spill during a tense confrontation. With each passing day, their community grew stronger as they united against fear and intimidation. They understood now that courage could take many forms, not just standing tall, but also sharing laughter during difficult times. Miguel often thought back to that night at the diner, the way laughter had transformed fear into something lighter, and he felt hopeful for what lay ahead. They were building something special together, a community ready to reclaim its power one laugh at a time. As the weeks passed, Miguel worked tirelessly to gather evidence against the Iron Wolves. He spent long hours speaking with neighbors, collecting stories, and documenting incidents. Each piece of information brought him closer to exposing the gang's operations. The community rallied around him, inspired by his determination and courage. They began to share their own experiences, creating a network of support that grew stronger every day. Sophia continued her work at the hospital, where she remained vigilant about any signs of gang influence. She documented everything, from suspicious patients to incidents involving intimidation. Her dedication to her job and her community fueled her resolve to fight against the Iron Wolves. She knew that every patient she cared for was a reminder of why they were fighting, because everyone deserved to feel safe and cared for. One evening, after a long day at work, Sophia met Miguel at their favorite cafe. He arrived with a sense of excitement in his eyes. He had just received word that law enforcement was finally ready to take action against the Iron Wolves. They had enough evidence to launch an investigation, and Miguel's hard work had played a crucial role in making it happen. Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had watched Miguel pour his heart and soul into this fight, and now it seemed like their efforts were about to pay off. They shared a moment of celebration, knowing that they were on the brink of change for their community. As they talked about what would happen next, Sophia reflected on how much their bond had strengthened through this journey. Miguel had always been protective of her, but now she saw him as not just her brother but also as a partner in this fight for justice. They had faced fear together and emerged stronger. The following days were filled with anticipation as law enforcement prepared to move against the gang. Miguel and Sofia remained involved, offering support to those who might be affected by the raid. The community came together in solidarity, united by hope and determination. Finally, the day arrived when law enforcement executed their plan. The operation was swift and coordinated, catching the Iron Wolves off guard. As news spread through 𝗲𝗡 about the raid, cheers erupted in the streets. The community felt a sense of triumph as they learned that many gang members had been arrested. Miguel and Sofia stood together outside the hospital as people celebrated around them. They exchanged proud smiles, knowing that their hard work had made a difference. The atmosphere was electric with hope for a brighter future. In the days that followed, Sofia continued her work at the hospital with renewed vigor. She felt a deeper connection to her patients and her role as a nurse. Each life she touched reminded her of why they had fought so hard against the Iron Wolves, because everyone deserved safety and care. Miguel also found fulfillment in his efforts as he helped organize community meetings to discuss ways to prevent future gang influence in 𝗲𝗡. Together with Sofia, they encouraged residents to stay vigilant and support one another. As they walked through their neighborhood one evening, Sofia turned to Miguel with gratitude in her eyes. She thanked him for being there for her throughout this journey and for reminding her of the importance of standing up for what is right. Miguel smiled back at her, feeling proud of what they had accomplished together. Their bond had grown stronger through adversity, and they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The story of their fight against the Iron Wolves became part of 𝗲𝗡's history, a tale of courage, unity, and resilience. It served as a reminder that standing up against wrongdoing was not just about individual bravery, it was about family and community coming together for justice. As they looked toward the future, Miguel and Sofia understood that their journey was far from over. But with each step forward, they felt more empowered to reclaim their community from fear, one act of courage at a time. As the dust settled in 𝗲𝗡 following the confrontation with the Iron Wolves, a judge sat in his chambers reflecting on the events that had unfolded. He considered the actions of Miguel and Sofia, two siblings who had taken a stand against fear and intimidation in their community. Their story was not just one of personal bravery, it was a reflection of deeper themes of justice, fairness, and the rule of law. The judge understood that the legal implications of this situation were significant. The actions taken by Miguel and Sofia to gather evidence against the gang were commendable, yet they also raised questions about the lengths individuals might go to when faced with injustice. In a society governed by law, it is crucial to balance personal initiative with established legal processes. The judge pondered whether their actions could be seen as vigilante justice or as a necessary response to systemic failure. He recognized that the motivations behind Miguel's and Sofia's decisions were rooted in a desire to protect their family and community. This instinct is powerful and often drives individuals to act when they feel that the law is inadequate or slow to respond. However, the judge knew that personal biases could cloud judgment. It was essential to consider how emotions might influence decisions in high-stakes situations. The line between right and wrong can blur when fear and anger are involved. The judge reflected on the complexities of legal decision-making. Each case presents unique challenges, and judges must navigate these waters carefully, weighing evidence against legal standards while remaining impartial. He recalled relevant legal precedents where communities had risen against crime but had faced backlash for taking matters into their own hands. The law must protect citizens, but it must also maintain order and prevent chaos. In examining Miguel's and Sophia's actions, the judge recognized their courage but also felt a responsibility to highlight the importance of working within the legal framework. While their fight against the iron walls was noble, it was crucial for future generations to understand that true justice is best served through lawful means. The judge believed that educating communities about their rights and responsibilities could empower them to seek change without resorting to vigilantism. He considered how this case might affect societal norms moving forward. The events in 𝗲𝗏𝗡 could serve as a catalyst for discussions about community safety and the role of law enforcement. They could inspire other neighborhoods to unite against crime while advocating for systemic changes within local law enforcement agencies. The judge also contemplated how different perspectives shape our understanding of truth and justice. For Miguel and Sophia, their truth was shaped by personal experiences with fear and intimidation. For others in the community, especially those who had suffered at the hands of gangs, their truth might differ significantly. It was vital for any legal system to consider these varying perspectives when making judgments. As he concluded his reflections, the judge felt a renewed sense of purpose. He hoped that by sharing insights from this case, he could contribute to a broader understanding of justice within society. He believed that every case holds lessons that can guide future actions, both in courtrooms and communities alike. In his role as a judge, he would continue to advocate for fairness and justice while reminding others of the importance of adhering to the rule of law. The story of Miguel and Sophia would resonate beyond 𝗲𝗏𝗡. It would serve as an example of how courage can inspire change while emphasizing that true justice requires collective effort within established legal frameworks. With these thoughts in mind, the judge prepared for his next session, ready to impart wisdom gained from this significant case while remaining committed to upholding justice for all. Miguel and Sophia felt a renewed sense of purpose as they reflected on their journey. They understood that their fight against the iron walls was not just a personal battle but a collective effort that could inspire others. As they looked back on the key moments, they began to identify important lessons learned along the way. Courage in the face of fear. The key takeaway is that courage is not the absence of fear but the willingness to act despite it. Miguel and Sophia faced their fears head-on, showing that bravery can inspire others to do the same. The key lesson is that when confronted with challenges, it is essential to acknowledge fear but not let it dictate actions. Taking small steps can lead to significant changes. The action prompt is to reflect on a fear you have. Write down one small action you can take to confront it today. The power of community. The key takeaway is that unity is strength. The support from their community helped Miguel and Sophia feel empowered to take action against the gang. The key lesson is that building connections with neighbors creates a safety net that can deter wrongdoing. Communities thrive when individuals support one another. The action prompt is to reach out to a neighbor or friend this week. Discuss ways you can support each other in your daily lives. Documenting truth. The key takeaway is that keeping records of events and experiences is vital for understanding and addressing issues within a community. The key lesson is that documentation provides evidence that can be used to advocate for change. It helps clarify situations and brings attention to problems that need solving. The action prompt is to start a journal or digital document where you can record important events or observations in your community. Finding humor in difficult times. The key takeaway is that laughter can be a powerful tool for overcoming tension and fear. The soda spill incident reminded everyone that humor can diffuse stressful situations. The key lesson is that maintaining a light-hearted perspective during tough times fosters resilience and strengthens bonds among people. The action prompt is to share a funny story with someone this week. Notice how laughter helps lighten the mood. Standing up against wrongdoing. The key takeaway is that taking action against injustice is essential for creating a safer environment for everyone. Miguel and Sophia's actions inspired others to stand up as well. The key lesson is that when individuals stand together against wrongdoing, they amplify their voices and increase their chances of success. The action prompt is to identify an issue in your community that concerns you. Gather a group of friends or neighbors to discuss how you can address it together. The importance of education. The key takeaway is that knowledge empowers individuals to make informed decisions and take effective action against crime and intimidation. The key lesson is that understanding rights, laws, and available resources equips communities to respond effectively to threats. The action prompt is to attend a local workshop or seminar about community safety or legal rights. Share what you learn with others. Resilience through adversity. The key takeaway is that adversity can strengthen relationships and build character. Miguel and Sophia's bond grew as they faced challenges together. The key lesson is that facing difficulties together fosters trust and understanding among individuals, creating deeper connections. The action prompt is to spend quality time with someone close to you this week. Engage in an activity that strengthens your relationship. As Miguel and Sophia reflected on these lessons, they felt hopeful about the future. They understood that while their journey had been challenging, it had also been rewarding. Each lesson learned was a stepping stone toward creating a safer, more supportive community. With these key takeaways in mind, they were ready to continue their work, knowing that every small action counted toward reclaiming their neighborhood from fear and building a brighter future for everyone.